What's up? What's going on? Who knows where the time goes? Sandy Denny said that, didn't she? It's been a while. Been a bit lazy. Lazy bones. Don't be lazy. It's not good. But I've got sort of about 10 different episodes that I've sort of got on the back burner there that I am going to get to hopefully this month and next month. But today, hardcore punk. We all have a bit of hardcore punk, don't we? But to be perfectly frank with you, my interest, my enthusiasm for hardcore punk has sort of been waning little by little over the past 8 or 9 years. Don't get me wrong, I still love it, of course, but I don't sort of find myself playing hardcore punk records at home as much as I used to do. But what I'm going to attempt to do today is choose my favourite sort of top 10 hardcore punk LPs of all time that I have in my collection. So because it's a vinyl channel, so anything that I don't own sort of can't really sort of show it, can I? And obviously don't have the greatest hardcore punk record collection in the world, probably not even in my own neighborhood, but I think I've got some classics here to sort of have a little look at, and all from the 80s. Now, is this even up for debate? Because I think, and it's not just me being an old sort of jaded fellow, but I do think hardcore punk did peak in the 80s. There's been a lot of amazing bands since then. There still are. I know there's a lot of great young bands. I'm not saying hardcore punk is dead or anything, but I think it did sort of peak in the 80s, really, to be honest with you. It's like, you know, if I sort of said free jazz peaked in the late 50s, I don't think too many people would argue with me about that. But shall we get to it? Let's get to it. Fast and furious. I'll try not to sort of ramble on as I usually do, but don't forget, it's the top 10 that I've got on my shelf. Now, what would I put on? What would I put in here that I don't own? Probably, there's no Japanese records here. I probably would have put the 4th Lip Cream LP, self-titled, because that has held up really well. That's a ripping rager of a record. Maybe the Stalin Mushy. It's a fantastic sort of record, isn't it? And rest in peace to Michiro Endo. He passed away last week. It's very sad, isn't it? But so as far as Japanese records go, that would probably be it for me. European, maybe Negazione and The Spirit Continues. Maybe other people like the early stuff. I think that's sort of the perfect sort of balance. What else? I don't know. I'll sort of think about it as I go through this episode. So let's get to it. They're not in any real order. Not really, but let's get to it. So first, let's start off in the United States of America with the band that may sort of have spawned the sort of most famous t-shirt to be worn in the underground. Luke even has a sort of Instagram or a blog about it. Of course, I'm talking about Final Conflict and their absolute raging record, Ashes to Ashes. And wow, for me, obviously American record, but sort of more British sounding to me, and they sort of looked more like British hardcore punks, leather jackets and all that. And now, is this meat and potatoes hardcore? Is it? I don't know. If it is, I mean, they are the tastiest potatoes coupled with the most expensive, succulent Kobe beef. To me, this is sort of just a raging record, isn't it? Really full on political record. I like what's that song that sort of slows down a little bit, sort of maybe the 4th or 5th track, really sort of nice groove to it. But really, it's just sort of a pummeling record. And obviously, this record big in Japan. A lot of hardcore punks were sort of influenced by that. But you should have a look on the internet. I might put a link in. Sort of check out Luke's blog or Instagram, wherever it is, where he's got sort of pictures of bands that wearing that sort of iconic Final Conflict t-shirt. Rager from America in the 1980s. Next, let's head back to, or let's head over to my country of origin, Blighty, the UK, and the magnificent sort of American sounding, because Tommy Stupid was American, wasn't he? Still is. I'm talking about the Stupids and Retard Picnic. Ooh, is it? Dodgy title maybe. Originally on Children of the Revolution Records, classic label from Bristol, England, 1986. Sort of became Manic Ears Records after it sort of changed ownership. What a raging band. I used to go and see this band all the time in the 80s, and they sort of always blew me away. Bit sort of mind-boggling, always wearing tracksuits, obviously big American vibe, skateboarding, this, that, and the other, but so tight, incredibly sort of energetic live show. I've lost count of how many times I saw them. Unbelievable. Made a big impression on me. I love this band. This is my sort of favourite record, because it's got a couple of like really amazing sort of bit more melodic songs. I'm talking about The Memory Burns. What an amazing song. And Something's Got to Give. It's a masterpiece from England, very American. So we just looked at an American record that is British sounding. Well, here's a British record that is American sounding. Masterpiece, classic, raging hardcore punk from 1986 out of England. Next, let's go back to England. Now, the first time I heard this record blew me away. Now, I can't remember if I heard the 7-inch first or this one, but it's one of those records that when I got it, I was living in a place called Carlisle up north in England, sort of opposite Newcastle, and this sort of dodgy bedsit we made Steve, and bought this record from the local shop with me door money. We put on one of those records you put it on and just play it again and again and again and again. You just wake up, put it on. Of course, talking about MDC, Millions of Dead Cops on our Radical Records. Unbelievable. It still stands up today. Ferocious political lyrics, over the top drumming, just powerful record. Powerful record. And the problem is with this band, now I don't know if you agree with me, but they didn't really sort of do anything very good after this, did they? They're still going. In fact, I saw them twice in England. Probably was the late 80s, and they were sort of doing that South Africa is free from apartheid, all that sort of stuff. And they had Michelle Shocked on tour with them at that time, sort of folk singer who ripped off Chaos UK's artwork. But even then, they were sort of okay. I sort of missed the peak, really, haven't I, at that point? But they came to Japan about 3 or 4 years ago. Not a bad show. They came back again, and then they're coming back again this year. So they're sort of quite popular. They're big in Japan, aren't they? But I don't really sort of anything after this record hasn't sort of really held up for me. But this is a hardcore punk masterpiece from America. MDC, Millions of Dead Cops, classic. Staying stateside. Now, I saw this band in England twice. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. Still one of the best sort of hardcore punk bands I've ever seen. I saw them once in Newport, a small club called TJ's. It was so good. I bought a bus ticket, coach ticket, went to London, sort of see them. Was it the next day? Probably the next day. That was the only 2 shows they played in England on that tour. And of course, it was a toss-up between Feel the Darkness or this one, but I went with this one because it's sort of relentless. It's full bore. The production is perfect. It's raw, but not too raw. It's got a little bit of a bite to it, sort of a bit of a Motorhead-ish feel to it. Just rages from start to finish. Riffs, for me, this record is all about sort of the perfect sort of hardcore punk riff. Relentless drumming and short. Let's sort of look at this. Let's have a look at that great picture of that. This is sort of classic lineup, you could say, but it's tough really because Feel the Darkness obviously is a hardcore punk record, but by that time they're sort of getting sort of more metallic. There's not much metal here, almost, well, zero really, isn't there? So I'm going to have to go for this one as my favourite Poison Idea LP. Masterpiece. It always gets me blood boiling. Lifestyles into Short Fuse and an Ugly American. Just not one bad song on it. Classic, of course, on Pussmore Records, a legendary label run by Sir Pusshead. Now, what's next? Discord Records. Now, I'll give you 5 seconds. I'm going to pick sort of one record from Discord. What's it going to be? Bear in mind, it's an LP. Yeah. You probably might have been right. You might have been wrong. I don't know. But for me, I'm talking about Scream. For me, probably best band on Discord. I almost picked the sort of second LP, but I think this one is more hardcore punk. Relentless, furious, but professional. Obviously, big sort of rock influence. Pete Style, sorry. One of my favourite vocalists. People might not like it. People might sort of say sort of too tuneful. I love him. I love his voice. I love his voice in Scream. I love his voice in Goat Snake. I think he's an incredible singer. And I saw Scream again in England in the 80s. Blew me away. High energy performance. Dave Grohl on the drums when I saw him. He's an amazing drummer now. Say what you want about Dave Grohl. Amazing drummer. I wish he'd sort of play the drums more often. I was looking at a video of Queens of the Stone Age. Don't laugh. I think they're a good band. Like Queens of the Stone Age with Dave Grohl on the drums. Unbelievable. Raw power. But this is definitely my favourite sort of full-length LP on Discord. It's a masterpiece. A lot of songs. Actually, the first time I heard this band, it was on a little tape I got from an American punk girl who came to visit the squat that we were living in, and she'd sort of, it was from America. It might have even been Maximum Rock and Roll Radio, but this is the first song on the tape. But I didn't know who it was. Of course, it was Came Without Warning. It took me quite a few years to find out who that song was by. It's so ferocious, but it's so catchy. And for me, I like catchy. I need a hook, and this LP is full of great melodic hooks, but it's furious. Classic. Scream, still screaming. Discord Records, run by Sir Ian Mackay. Now, let's go to England. Now, is this record hardcore punk? Don't know. Might be, might not be. But if I remember correctly, just talked about Pusshead a few minutes ago. I think, now tell me if I'm wrong, I think this record was on a sort of top 100 hardcore records of all time, wasn't it? I should have checked that. I'll have a little look later. But, of course, I'm talking about the dark, epic masterpiece by Rudimentary, Peni, Death Church. Mysterious band, almost never played live. If you know the band, you know what I'm talking about. Iconic band. I don't think many bands have tried. All of them have failed to sort of replicate the sort of dark, foreboding, eerie atmosphere that is sort of conjured up on this record. It really is incredible. Again, one of those records. I think I got the sort of 2 singles first, and honestly, when I got the LP, I'm not disappointed, but it is a bit different, isn't it? It's not quite as frantic as the 2 singles. It's sort of a little bit more controlled, but once I played it a few times, I was hooked, and I still play this record a lot, I think. I mean, everyone likes this record, don't they? Sort of people into metal like it, people into sort of gothic stuff like it, post-punk, whatever you want to call it, but anarcho-punk. But of course, Nick Blinko's amazing artwork as well. So I'm gonna include this one. I'm sure Nick and his mates probably wouldn't be too happy about being called a hardcore punk band. Maybe a punk band, I don't know. But for me, I don't know. This is sort of a hardcore punk record, isn't it? Rudimentary Peni, Death Church, originally on sort of, well, Southern, out to Himalayan Records, isn't it? Originally. But, if you've never heard this record, go out, give it a listen. It might sort of change your life. Bleak record. Now, let's go back to the States. Not a bleak record, sort of very uplifting record, very energetic record, but a dangerous band, aren't they? From San Diego, I think. So all the members might be dead now. Maybe they were a bit violent back in the day. Still going. And of course, another band that's sort of quite influential in Japan. I'm talking about the Battalion of Saints, Second Coming. This, for me, is one of the sort of best American hardcore full-length records of all time. Classic. Now, you've probably sort of seen me talking about sort of high-pitched vocals and stuff, but Battalion of Saints, they do have sort of bit screamy, sort of high-pitched vocals, but it doesn't matter. It still works. This is a sort of high-energy record, and 1984. It's quite something for 1984, but yeah, this is sort of a desert island hardcore punk record for me. And do they have any record coming out? I don't know. What's that record called? Cuts. When did that come out? That was a good record too, wasn't it? And they put out some singles about 15, 16 years ago that are sort of really top notch as well. So they've sort of still got it, haven't they? I'd like to see them. I wonder if they'll come to Japan. Masterpiece, hardcore punk classic, Battalion of Saints, Second Coming. Rager. Now, let's stay in the USA, and now let me just sort of show you this. Bad Brains. Now, if you've all seen the sort of early live footage on YouTube, and if you're old enough, you would have even seen them sort of properly live back in the day. But not much sort of comes close, does it, to early Bad Brains? But actually, to be honest with you, I'm sort of a big fan of Quickness and Eye Against Eye. I love that sort of era when they sort of get a little bit, not too funky, but a little bit funky, sort of more rock influences. Now, I'm clicking my mouse here because I went to see the Bad Brains in England twice. It was quite interesting. I don't remember the order. I saw them in Bristol and I saw them in London, but I actually sort of found the set list from when they played in London. They played at the London Astoria in 1989, and it was Reignition, Rock for Light, Let Me Help, Day Tripper, She's a Rainbow, House of Suffering, Coptic Times, G Machine, Don't Bother Me, Voyage into Infinity, Sacred Love, Soulcraft, Secret 77, Eye Against Eye, At the Movies, and then Encore with the Quickness, and then I Love I Jar. What a sort of funny, sort of strange choice of last encores. They're probably trying to calm the crowd down. And I've heard the London Astoria was sort of the most packed it had ever been up until that point. That was sort of an amazing gig. And I saw them, I can't remember the order, I'm getting older. I saw them as well in Bristol. I think there were some problems. There was no support band, and we waited outside for hours and hours, and Bad Brains came on really, really late. And they came on, and they just played dub reggae for about 20 minutes, and the crowd was sort of getting, not frustrated, but sort of, when are they going to sort of go into the punk, the sort of hardcore stuff or whatever? And I don't know, it was a strange gig. They sort of didn't play for very long. So I read a story about this now. Maybe someone could tell me if it's true or not. The reason they didn't play very long, and HR didn't do an encore. They came on without him. They did Pay to Come without HR sing. But apparently, now this is what I heard now, that just before they flew to England, HR was sort of helping out in a soup kitchen in New York, and he sort of ate some of the soup at the soup kitchen, and it came to pass that the soup he had eaten was made by a guy who'd killed someone, and the soup had sort of bits of the dead body in the soup. Is that a true story? Let me know in the comments. But anyway, I sort of decided to go this one, the Raw tapes. Could have gone with Rock for Light, but this one is a little bit more raging. Is this cheating? Because it wasn't really a proper album, was it? But this is sort of Bad Brains, unbeatable really, aren't they? Classic stuff. Yeah, crazy band. I wish I'd seen him back. Did anyone see him back in the really early days? It must have been incredible. I've sort of only seen the live videos, but anyway, let's get back to England now. For me, this band was sort of the masters of the song. They knew how to write a catchy but fast and powerful song, and they're still going, almost still the original lineup, and they're still good as well. Of course, I'm talking about these bad boys, Charge, GBH, and I've cheated a little bit. I sort of was going to go with the first album, but this is sort of technically a 12-inch single, but it's a flawless record from start to finish. The huge production, massive clay record sound. I sort of loved the look of this band when I was a kid. Sort of, oh God, I always tried to sort of look like Colin and Jock and everything, with spiked up hair and the leather and everything. So cool. And Colin's got this sort of, I think they were sort of big Iggy Pop sort of Stooges fans, weren't they? You can sort of tell Colin's got that sort of inflection in his vocals, but it's not easy, is it, to write a powerful, fast, but sort of catchy song without it being sort of overly melodic. So I think their genius is really in the Races Against Time, and of course it's got Generals on it, the slower paced song, which is sort of, that song sort of gets me going every time. Masterpiece, Charged, GBH, still going. Saw him a few years ago with Exploited, and this band, Discharge. For me, this record, when it comes to hardcore punk, is untouchable. It's just a relentless, bombastic, ram-charging beast of a record. You know the drill about Discharge. Simplistic lyrics, the D-beat. The production on this is phenomenal. I mean, how many sort of guitar tracks are on this record? It's unbelievable. And people were talking yesterday about which is better, Wide or Hear Nothing, See Nothing, Say Nothing. But for me, it's always been about this record. Sort of slight, the production is just, you can't call it slick. It's just so powerful, and it's just sort of relentless from start to finish. Absolute masterpiece. Never ever get tired of this record. It's they never sort of topped it really. Again, another record, when I bought it, it was sort of glued to the turntable for about half a year. Masterpiece. Hardcore punk rock does not get much better than this. I should have saved this till last, shouldn't I? But never mind. Still got a couple to go. Actually, no, last one. Now, this one might surprise you, maybe not, don't know. For me, this band, American band, New York City, hard as nails. I don't understand New York hardcore culture, don't get it. I like some of the music, but for me, this band is so, well, of course I'm talking about Cro-Mags, The Age of Quarrel. What a beast of a record. Production could have been better, but doesn't matter. Doesn't really sort of spoil it, really. For me, just sounds like Bad Brains crossed, mixed with Discharge, really, doesn't it? Just relentless record. I love the sort of slower songs like Malfunction on it as well. Now for me, they didn't sort of really do anything that even sort of matched this, and there's this sort of silly feud that's being gone. There's sort of this Cro-Mags with JJ singing, and those sort of Harley's just sort of won back the name, the Cro-Mags name, so he's got his Cro-Mags, and then JJ and whoever else is sort of Cro-Mags JL or whatever it's called, I forget, but a bit silly, innit? Sort of reminds me of The Sweet or something like that, or Slade, sort of 2 or 3 different versions of the same band. But anyway, I'm digressing. Masterpiece. This does get your blood boiled. I'm not a mosher, but I must admit, I do feel like having a little bit of a mosh in my room whenever I put this record on. Classic street fighting record from New York City. Tough town, tough lads. You wouldn't sort of want to mess with them in a back alley in Queens after midnight, would you? But classic record. Now, I was sort of saying, what would I put in? I would have put in the Crucifix record, Dehumanization, if I had it. Don't have it. And one I missed that I do have, I just remember now, Chaos UK, Extreme Noise Terror, Split, LP, Ear Slaughter. Should have been in my top 10. And also, I showed 11, so I lied and I cheated. But so many great records in there, hardcore punk records, but it's sort of hard to choose a top 10. But as I always say, let's sort of not take these things too seriously. Well, I sort of went on a little bit more than I sort of planned to. Never mind. So until next time, as always, stay healthy and stay clean.